Guys, what is going on? I hope you guys are well. Guys, a lot's happened in boxing. I want to talk about two stories today that were really big stories, massive stories actually. Um, Keith, Errol Spence has come out and said he doesn't want to fight Keith Thurman. He said, I've had enough of Keith Thurman. He goes, I only want to fight Garcia, Pacquiao, and Crawford, and then I want to move on with my career in the 147-pound division. I want to fight these three guys, and then I'm moving on. I think Errol Spence is holding a grudge against Keith Thurman. The fact that Keith Thurman didn't fight him. Keith Thurman didn't get in the ring with Errol Spence when Keith Thurman was world champion. Errol Spence was world champion. Errol Spence feels that Keith Thurman ducked him, and he did. Keith Thurman didn't want that smoke with Errol Spence. And Keith Thurman, for me, at that point, had really peed off Errol Spence. And Errol Spence thinks that, why do I need this guy now? What does this guy do for me? Nothing. Keith Thurman didn't want to fight him. Now, I don't really like that attitude from Errol Spence. It's kind of like, well, you didn't give me a fight, so I'm not going to give you a fight. And I didn't think Errol Spence was like that. But I just think Errol Spence doesn't like Keith Thurman. I think he thinks Keith Thurman is a fake. And I think he just thinks that, I've got nothing to gain fighting this guy. When I was champion, he was champion, and I was calling for the fight. The guy didn't give me an opportunity, and now he's crying and calling for a fight because he's a nobody now. He's been beat by Pacquiao, and he's coming crying for a fight. And I think Keith Thurman now, it's his own fault. Why didn't he take the risk at that point? When Errol Spence was calling his name, let's not forget, when Errol Spence was calling his name, Keith Thurman didn't want that smoke. He didn't want that smoke, he decided to fight. And I listen, give him benefit of the doubt. He was injured, but Keith Thurman was being called out by Errol Spence for a very long time. And Errol Spence and Keith Thurman said, it's disrespectful. Errol Spence is even calling me out. And this was when Errol Spence was like 15, 16 fights in. He was calling out Keith Thurman, and Keith Thurman didn't want to know. But now all of a sudden, Errol Spence is top dog. Keith Thurman wants to fight him, So listen, I think Errol Spence, I don't think he's interested anymore, and I think he's really angry with Keith Thurman. So I just think it's like when you get peed off, you feel like this guy didn't give me an opportunity when I was calling for that fight. Now all of a sudden I'm in the power position, he's not, and he's calling for the fight. But this is what's wrong with boxing. Too many guys trying to get their own back, rather than saying, it's a good fight, it's a good money fight, it's a big fight. Let's make it happen. But I just think, I don't think that fight's going to happen, if I'm honest with you. I think when it should have happened before, it didn't happen because Keith Thurman was ducking Spence. And now I just say Errol Spence is taking revenge now. I just think he thinks that I ain't fighting this guy. There's no need. He's got nothing for me to gain. Because at the end of the day, here's the thing with business, right? Keith Thurman and Errol Spence would have made a lot of money, right? So, and at that point, Keith Thurman was probably the bigger star, bigger name. And Errol Spence was looking for that opportunity. He was looking to do business with Keith Thurman. But Keith Thurman didn't want that smoke. Now, Errol Spence is thinking, now that I'm top dog, now that I've got a bigger name, now that I'm a bigger star, why should I give this guy an opportunity when he didn't give me the opportunity? And I think that's the issue. Because now Errol Spence thinks he's in the position of power. And that's it. I think it's more a grudge thing now. And I actually think the fight would be really good, because I actually think, all the build up to the fight would be really good as well, because I just think that there's needle there. I think there's genuine needle. I don't think Spence likes him. I'm not sure if Thurman dislike Spence. I don't think Spence likes Thurman's energy. And I think he's got a bit of dislike for Keith Thurman. And that's what I think would make the fight very interesting. But I'm not sure Errol Spence is going to want to fight him. I just think he's thinking, let me fight Garcia, Pacquiao, and then Crawford. That's it. He's not even talking about Keith Thurman anymore, because Keith Thurman's not relevant, firstly. Keith Thurman's not holding a belt. Keith Thurman, unless he gets himself in a mandatory position. But I don't think that's going to happen, because I think Errol Spence is going to move away. Unless Keith Thurman moves up weight and fights Errol Spence. But again, Keith Thurman has himself to blame. He can't say that Errol Spence is ducking me, because when Errol Spence was calling him out, Keith Thurman didn't fight him. So it works both ways, really. If You know, you didn't fight a guy, and now he's taking his own back out on you. For me, I think you're just... I don't like it because I think it's a great fight, but I don't think we'll ever see that fight, if I'm honest. It doesn't... why are we going to see that fight? Because Errol Spence is looking to unify, and Keith Thurman doesn't hold a belt. So we're never going to see an Errol Spence Keith Thurman fight, in my opinion. I just think the fight's not going to happen at all. I think that Errol Spence is, like I said, he's peed him off. And Errol Spence is basically coming out and saying, I don't want the fight. I don't want to fight him. You know, he doesn't bring anything to the table. And like I said, I think that's the problem with a lot of today's generation fighters. Like, you would never get Marvin Hagler saying that I don't want to fight my other top rivals in my division. It just wouldn't happen. But in today's time, I just feel that there's too many grudges. There's too many guys. Oh yeah, he didn't fight me, so I'm not fighting him. You know, it's just too much bull crap, which we didn't get in the olden days. The olden guys just used to fight one another. We very rarely used to hear a fight's not getting made. They just used to fight. You know, now it's like so many big fights just don't happen. You know, and we look back and say, oh well, that fight should have happened. That fight should have happened. That didn't happen. You know, there's just too many fights like that, unfortunately, and that wasn't like it in the past. And I think Keith Thurman and Errol Spence is going to be just another one that's going to be on our list. That's not going to happen. I just don't see it happening, if I'm honest with you. And it's a shame. It's a shame, if I'm honest with you, because Errol Spence has made it clear you don't want to fight him. You know, unless Keith Thurman gets himself in a position of power, which maybe if he fights Crawford and beats him, you know, then maybe Spence might consider it. Otherwise, I don't think if Keith Thurman doesn't get himself in a powerful position, which he may not now, I don't think he's ever going to get that fight. But that's my take on that situation. It's sad that we've got two great welterweights that, you know, one of them saying that he's not going to fight the other. One of them had the opportunity when, you know, he was in the power position and he didn't take the fight. So it is what it is. I think Spence is taking out his own back now on Keith Thurman. But let's go on to another serious issue. Canelo Alvarez is a free agent now. He's no longer got a deal with DAZN and Golden Boy. He's broke free. His manager came out and put a statement out saying that, you know, as of today, 6th November, Canelo Alvarez is a free agent, and now we are looking to get his career back on track, and he's looking to fight in December. So now we know Canelo Alvarez is no longer with Oscar De La Hoya and no longer with DAZN, which it's been a long relationship. I think Oscar must be really sad, and he's just lost his golden goose. He's just lost his mega star. He's just lost his mega star. That's gonna really hurt Oscar De La Hoya. He might not say it, like, you know, I know he's got Jaime Munguia, Virgil Ortiz, and Ryan Garcia, and Ryan Garcia is very close to Canelo. I won't be surprised if as soon as his contract runs out, he follows suit. You know, and at the minute, Oscar De La Hoya may be the right thing for Canelo. I think with Canelo, I just think it got to a point where Canelo's such a big star. He's thinking, why am I giving a cut to Oscar De La Hoya? I don't need to. I don't need to give a cut to Oscar De La Hoya. I'm pretty sure everyone came to an agreement. I think maybe Canelo paid him off or something. There must have been something in the contract which, you know, they parted ways. You know, I'm pretty sure Golden Boy got a payoff. And Canelo just went his separate ways. They went their separate ways, and which is sad because it's been such a long-term relationship. But I just think when these guys become such big stars, they don't really need promoters. Canelo doesn't need a promoter. Canelo can be a free agent, you know, unless someone's gonna pay him crazy money like DAZN did. But I just think in the current climate, I don't think it's safe to be paying someone that kind of money. And Canelo can generate big money anyway per fight, really. You know, and I think Canelo should just be a free agent and do his thing. You know, many fighters do that. You know, Canelo's such a big star that anybody would be looking to get Canelo on their platform. Anybody, you know. So, if I'm honest with you, how many sharks would be out there today talking to Canelo? My goodness. Can you imagine Bob Arum? Can you imagine? I won't be surprised if Canelo joins. If Canelo decides to join a network, that network becomes automatically the strongest. If he goes to Bob Arum becomes in my opinion, the biggest promoter in the world. If he goes to Al Heyman becomes the most powerful promoter in the world. And who knows? Canelo might just become a free agent. might become a free agent. But I do think he's talking about a fight with Caleb Plant, you know, and Caleb Plant's with a PBC. So is that suggesting that he's going to go with a PBC? And listen, there's a lot of future fights that could be made with PBC. Charlo, Caleb Plant, you know, is Benavidez is he with ESPN or is he with PBC? I'm not sure. But this is what I'm trying to say. There's a lot of big fights that could be made. And the thing is with Al Heyman, he works with Eddie Hearn. And Eddie Hearn's got some of the good fighters. And the only problem is with Al Heyman is he doesn't work with Bob Arum, and that's a big issue. But I think Canelo's such a big star. If Canelo wants to make a fight, but who does Bob Arum really have that Canelo would fight? Bob Arum's not really got anyone in around that weight. You know, I think he might have Beterbiev in the light heavyweight division, but we don't know if Canelo's keen on fighting in the light heavyweight division. But listen, I think PBC and Eddie Hearn are the ones that have all the fighters, and I'm pretty sure Canelo will be more than happy. I think Al Heyman and Eddie Hearn will come to an agreement, you know, with Canelo if Canelo wants to fight one of his guys. And like I said, I don't know if Canelo's going to join with PBC. He may just be a free agent. He may just decide to, you know, just deal with promoter on a fight-to-fight basis. You know, one thing's for sure, he's not going to be dealing with Oscar De La Hoya again. And Oscar De La Hoya hasn't really got any fighters that I think interest Canelo anyway. So yeah, I think that's why he's probably made a move, because he's probably thinking that I need to start taking hold of my own career so I can start fighting whoever I want. And the fact that he's talking about Caleb Plant, that suggests to me that he's going to have a close relationship with Al Heyman. And maybe he just wants to be a free agent so he can work with every single promoter and just fight whoever he wants to fight, and make the fights he wants to make. Because Caleb Plant's a very good fighter. I rate Caleb Plant. He's a special fighter. And I think that's a good fight. Obviously, Canelo's a beast, but I do think that's a great fight. I think Caleb Plant's a very, very good fighter. I think Caleb Plant is very underrated, very, very talented guy. So that's a good fight. That's a good fight, if I'm honest with you. And I like that fight. And then it's going to be interesting now because, like I said, I think there's so many fights here in the UK that could be made with Billy Joe, Callum Smith. And I think now that Canelo's situation sorted out, I think he'll be looking to make those fights as well. I would have preferred to see Billy Joe or Callum Smith. But like I said, I think the fact that he's talking about Caleb Plant's a PBC fighter, that suggests to me that he's already been talking to Al Heyman, because Caleb Plant's an Al Heyman fighter. So yeah, it's going to be very interesting to see what Canelo does, who Canelo fights, because I think we want to start seeing Canelo push on and take all the big fights. I think, you know, there's some big fights in terms of Charlo, and Caleb Plant, Benavidez, Saunders, Callum Smith with Eddie Hearn. So these fights can be made. And like I said, Callum Smith is a free agent anyway, or he works on a fight-to-fight deal, I believe, with Eddie Hearn. I don't think he's got a long-term contract with Eddie Hearn. So that fight between him and Canelo could be made like that, because Callum Smith could come and fight Canelo on their card or Fox or whatever. I don't think Callum Smith is going to have much problem. He just wants to fight with Canelo. And with Saunders, I think he might be under contract with Hearn. But again, I think if it makes sense, I think Hearn will let him go and fight on Fox for that fight. So I think Canelo's going to have some good options. Canelo's a star. You know, he can do what he wants. But yeah, big news that Canelo's broke. You know, Canelo's come to mutual agreements with DAZN and Golden Boy, and he is no longer in contract with either party. Leave your thoughts. Let me know what you think, guys. And guys, remember to please like, share, and subscribe to my channel. I'll see you guys in the next video. Peace.